Travel Addicts. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us. For our very first big video, we wanted to bring to you 2 of our favorite places to visit.
Yes, we did.
Did you figure out what the first one was? Do you know what the
I think it's Greece.
Greece!
Greece!
That is correct.
Yes.
We just recently got back from Greece, and it just was the time of our life.
Yeah.
We have been traveling for many years, and out of all the places that we visit, we have 2 favorites, and we wanted our very first big video here on our new channel to talk about, well, Greece and the other one that is coming up. And so we're going to take you through some of the highlights. We'll bring you some more produced videos here soon about these particular locations, but this is just a bit of a highlight, if you will, and some of the things that we learned on the way. And so without further ado, let's get to the first highlight of something that we saw in Greece. And of course, it's in Athens. And you can't go to Athens unless you're seeing this. All right, so there's a little bit of highlights of the Acropolis with the Parthenon sitting on top. So here's a few things that you are going to want to know if you have never visited, I should say, Athens, specifically the Parthenon on top of the Acropolis. Number one, I would say you do not want to plan to visit there when there are cruise ships at dock, or at least a lot of them. If you could see from some of the video, it was unbelievably chaotic the day we were there.
Yeah, it was packed.
Yeah, it was packed, to say the least. It was like a crawl on the way up, which in some cases wasn't necessarily a bad thing because it is a bit of a hike to get up there. It's not the worst hike that we've ever done, but it is... it's going to take a little bit of effort to get to the top. So if you're mobility challenged, it can be a little problematic to get to the top because it is a bit of a climb and there's lots of steps.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're slippery too. It's, old marble that is just worn down and it's nice and slick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, if you noticed, since we're talking about footing and things, there is not pavement everywhere, or even stones. There's a lot of natural ground that you're walking on, and it is very rocky. And so you just have to also make sure that you wear comfortable shoes, not just for the hike, but that you may be walking over terrain that is not very level.
Yes, without a doubt.
Okay. Sunscreen.
Yes.
There is no shade to be found up there.
Not a bit.
Not a bit. So make sure you bring some sunscreen, or at least, a nice big hat or something to protect you. Water. There was a vending machine at the top. One vending machine.
Oh, I don't remember seeing that.
It was around the back.
Okay.
It was around the back. Remember, the guy there was actually there, like, collecting the money and taking them out one at a time. I don't know, there's something wrong with it. So bring some water.
Yes. It is a long hike up in the hot sun.
Yep. And you may spend a few hours there. Right? Maybe longer. I know we were there about 2.5, 3 hours. And so you're definitely going to want to bring some water.
Yes.
So those would be the main things that we would talk about, the three big things when getting up to the top of the Acropolis to see the Parthenon. There's a few other things. If you saw the sort of the stadium that was there, if you will, there's performances that actually happened inside of there. They were setting up for Madame Butterfly when we were there. So that was really sort of a neat thing to see.
Yes.
Okay. There was, what we learned that was very interesting while we were there is that not everything that you see up on the top of the Acropolis is original. They have pulled a lot of the really priceless carvings and statues out, and they have put them in the museum. We are not going to highlight the museum here. That could be in itself a 14-hour video.
Easily.
You got to go to the museum. If you're in Athens, go to the Acropolis, see the Parthenon. Also, you've got to go to the museum. It is absolutely amazing, which we didn't know until we got there. There's one of the buildings up there on the top. They've got these huge statues that are holding up the roof. They are replicas. They're not real. Yeah. They've pulled out the real ones, put them in the museum, and they've replaced them with replicas. Okay, so and there are some things that have been taken and brought to other museums all around the world.
Yes.
So not everything is 100% original, but that does not take away from the unbelievable beauty of what that place was. If you're into history at all, that is definitely a bucket list. One more thing I do want to mention: I did say something about mobility challenges. There actually is one elevator for people who are in wheelchairs or carts that cannot make the climb. I'm not exactly sure what the prerequisite is. I do apologize. But there is one lift that can get you to the top and then back down. It's not for the general public. It's just a specialized lift for those who are in wheelchairs. Okay, so there you go. There's a little bit of information about the Parthenon and the Acropolis. Again, we will cover it in much more detail in a produced video just for that one destination. It really does deserve its own video, but we just wanted to give you some highlights here. So now that's done, which, by the way, before I forget, if this is your first time visiting with us, which it probably might be, you know what to do, right? Thumbs up, subscribe, become part of the Travel Addicts family, okay? We're going to bring you all kinds of destinations from all over the world, whether it's hotels, destinations, cities, countries, as we do our travels and bring them to you. So
Yes.
On that note, the next thing that we did when we were in Athens is we went here. All right, so that is Delphi. This is our second favorite place that we visited when we were in Athens. Now, Delphi is not in Athens. It is outside of Athens. So, here's a few things that you got to know. One, this is going to be a full day, right?
Yes.
It's about a 2.5-ish hour drive to get there from Athens, of course, and then it's 2 hours and a half back. So, you're going to have 5 hours in the vehicle. Okay. When you're there, if you saw the video, there's a little city that was sort of carved out of the mountainside. That's called Arakava, right? Arakava.
Yes.
It's just before you get to Delphi. It's also where we finished our visit there. We had lunch, and you sort of saw the views from the restaurant we ate at right there at the very end of those highlights. The food is amazing. First of all, the food is amazing everywhere. We ate like crazy. And yeah, just, oh my Lord. I can't remember eating so much. The food is amazing. Anyway, So the city of Arakava, make sure you stop there and have some food, which also in the wintertime is basically a ski resort.
Yeah.
Or a ski city.
Yeah.
Yes, it does snow in Greece, and that is where the locals go and ski in the winter.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a ski resort. So it's really, really pretty there in the winter.
Beautiful.
The roads, from what I understand, don't get completely paved. Find somebody local to help you out if you want to go there and go skiing. Anyway, things you need to know about Delphi. If you could tell from the video, you are not at sea level anymore.
No.
Okay? You are up there quite a bit. The ruins, if you will, of Delphi start off around 1,800 feet above sea level, but go as high up as around 6,000, if I remember. 5,000, 6,000. So there is a lot of hiking and climbing within this site. None of it is really paved or smooth. So again, back to mobility challenges. If you have some mobility issues, unfortunately, this is definitely not a site you're going to visit, which unfortunately is a shame because it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It really is beautiful.
Yeah.
So much history surrounding the sites that we went through, both religious and otherwise. And so definitely a place to go visit. But you're at elevation. Definitely comfortable shoes. 2, you're going to want to bring some extra clothing.
Yeah.
When we were there, it was 80-something degrees down at the base, and it was like
Cold.
55 degrees and wind howling up at the top.
Yes.
Fortunately, we had windbreakers with us. So you definitely want to bring a backpack and bring a windbreaker with you if you feel that if you're wearing shorts during the day, you feel you may be cold there, maybe, you know, like a running suit or something that you can put on, because it does get a little bit cold. Like the Parthenon, bring some sunscreen, bring some water. Food, not too big of a deal, because Rakavot was right there. You can either eat coming in or eat going out. So definitely a place to visit. Take lots of pictures, lots of video.
Yes.
It's amazing. One of the other things that we did, not just for Delphi, but for the other sites that we went to, is they all in the gift shops carry these books. And I wish I had one here right now to show you. I apologize. But what they do is they show sort of a now picture, and then when you turn the page, it sort of superimposes what it was like back before they became ruins, which makes your visit so much more intriguing, because sometimes for some people it's hard to look and go, oh, I get it. Whereas if you see the drawing of it or the rendition of it, an artist's rendition, it is much more powerful. Because a lot of these sites, there's not a lot of structure to see, just a little bit of ruins. I hope that makes sense to you, and hopefully you saw some of that in the video. Okay, what else would we tell people about Delphi?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, just definitely bring your camera. You have lots of space for, if you're using digital, lots of space.
Yeah, if you're using your phone, make sure it's empty. You know, if you're bringing a camera, bring some extra memory cards to go on there.
Yeah.
You will burn it up. There is a museum associated with this as well that is on property. So if you can't climb up to the ruins, you can get a very good sensation and feeling about what this place is from in the museum. Okay, it is all part of the entrance fee. If I remember correctly, it was like 15 or 20 euro per person. None of the sites that we went to while we were there were expensive. In fact, going back to Athens real quick, there's one ticket you can buy for 30 euro that gets you into all 5 of the major sites within Athens proper, from the Acropolis and the Parthenon, the museums, I can't remember them now.
The Temple of Zeus.
The Temple of Zeus.
Yeah.
And golly. It's the Mad Cow, guys. It's the Mad Cow. Anyway, but yeah, 30 euro covers all 5 of the major attractions in Athens. Anyway, back to Delphi. We digress. So, yeah, definitely a place. But remember, 2.5-ish hours outside of town. Okay? So, speaking of Temple of Zeus, let's get back to Athens and take a quick little peek at Temple of Zeus. Today, we are at the Temple of Zeus, father of all the gods. Well, there you go. There was the Temple of Zeus. Now, one of the things that touched me the most about this particular site was some of the video that you saw towards the end. Everywhere you walk on this site, you're walking to me what felt like structure that is no longer there. If you notice from the video, there's these long straight lines. Those weren't just laid there. I don't know if it was a wall. I don't know if it was part of a building, but you're literally walking on history, and all the little rocks and pebbles, I mean, to me, at some point, must have been part of a building.
I know, I felt the same way.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell the difference. There were some lighter colored ones, which would have been the marble or whatever, and then there were some darker color stones. But we just found it amazing that you're walking on top of this.
Yes. Yes. You never would have thought that we would be able to get so close, let alone walk on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely really cool. Like any of the sites here, right? Sunscreen and water. This is not a big site like the Acropolis / Parthenon or even Delphi. This is more of a quicker visit. Mm-hmm. Half an hour-ish, 45 minutes maybe. If you're taking some serious photos and video, maybe an hour and a half. Okay. One thing that else that struck me is the size and scope of what that temple used to be.
Yeah.
As you can see from the video, not much of it left. There was a good cluster of columns at one end, and then all the way down the other side, I think there was one left standing. And right, so, and as you all could see, there was scaffolding. They're constantly doing restoration, trying to protect what's left. I'm not sure if they're trying to rebuild. Gosh, I hope not. Which is a whole nother conversation for another day, but at least preservation. So there's always a lot of that going on when you go to these sites. So you just be mindful of that. So
what I really enjoyed is turning around and looking back at the Temple of Zeus, and you can see the Acropolis from the Temple of Zeus, and you're looking through Hadrian's Gate at the Acropolis, and I love that. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it was. It really just give me goosebumps now. I've been studying Greece for a long time, and it just was one of those things. It's one of our favorite places. So,
yeah. Now
we were there for 6 days, just 6 total days, and we saw so much. We've given you some small highlights. We went to Corinthos. I mean, we went to so many places. And again, as I mentioned, a lot of them are 2 to 3 hours outside of town. We went to Olympia, right, and so. It takes careful planning. So to us, I say you have 2 options. You can go with a tour company who's going to lay this all out for you, put you in some kind of vehicle, and carry you around from place to place to place to place daily. To do the kind of stuff that we did, it's going to cost you more than it cost you to get to Athens. Okay? However, you could find yourself a guy or a girl, right? A person. You can find yourself a person that can do essentially exactly the same thing. We were very fortunate that we have some dear friends of ours who had been there before, who had a person. Now, if you were paying attention through the video, you caught a glimpse of him a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And so, without further ado, let us introduce you to our person. This is our guy. He's got a name. His name is FOTIS. We met FOTIS through a mutual friend, and he has basically planned our entire time here. Now, we've been here for 6 days. If you do any research before you come to Greece, specifically the Athens area, there is so much to see, it can be overwhelming. So I said to FOTIS, we have 6 days, fill up the calendar, and fill it up in a way that we can get the most out of it. So, before I ask you, too many questions, first, so everyone knows, how long have you been driving people around?
More than 25 years.
More than 25 years. If someone's coming to Athens, right, to the Athens area, what would be your best recommendation for them for sightseeing?
Coming to the first town, we need to visit all the tourists to know their problem. Nobody knows all the other highlights of Athens. In this region, the better option to see in 3 or 5 hours all the more famous highlights of the other city. That means Acropolis, the Table of Olympian Shoes, the older classical stadium, the Kilica Meadows for the best romantic and panoramic view to the Athens city, some museum, and that is the wonderful area also, which we will drive you to the Plaka area because it's the old town of Athens city. The Athens, you have also more of the 3,000-year history. The people that come in here respect that, and so you need a visitor more or less 3-4 hours to the center of Athens city. This reason is a wonderful idea.
We're going to leave a way to contact FOTIS in the description. And so if you're going to be coming to Athens for more than a day or two, and you want someone, FOTIS, which by the way, this is a family business. His brother, let's say you have a big group and you need more than one vehicle. His brother, they do this together. And we met him, George, that's his name, at least his American name. And same face, no hair. A little bit longer beard, but it can accommodate more than a couple people. So if you want to contact these guys, we'll have their information down in the description, and feel free. And so you know, we have no skin in the game here. We don't have any benefits of you contacting them. We're not making any money for this. We are just doing this as a courtesy to all our subscribers out there. If you're watching this, you should be subscribing so that you guys can have the best use of your time here in Athens. So first of all, let me apologize for the volume. It was so funny. FOTIS is louder than me. And when we turned the camera on, he got all kind of quiet. And we didn't realize until we had already, unfortunately, left Athens, or we would have re-recorded it in a slightly less noisy environment. This was our last meal together with him. And it was just an amazing 6 days with him. However, he also picked us up. We did a cruise in between all of this, which we can talk about another time. So we were in contact with him and used his services for 8 days. Now, if you're going to hire a tour company to hand carry you around, give you the personal guided tour for 8 days, or 6 days of touring and 8 days for other transportation and stuff, it can get very expensive. I can tell you, it costs us a little under $100 per person per day when you added up our total cost of all the 8 days, which, on top of which, included the food we were eating, because that man would not let us pay for anything. Nothing. I pull out my card. He says, no, I got this. I'm like, no, I got this. He was like, got mad when I tried to pay. So I cannot, there are just not enough words. You should find yourself a guy, and as far as we're concerned, it's FOTIS.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. And so if you're planning any time there, as I mentioned in the video with him, we will leave his contact information. Contact him through Facebook. And we've already had a lot of our other friends already contact him and use his services. In fact, believe it or not, I didn't tell you, he actually messaged me today.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he had picked some of our friends up at the airport. So
awesome.
If you have limited time in Athens, call someone like FOTIS,
yes.
If not FOTIS directly.
Yes.
Okay. One of the other things that we're going to be covering on this channel, as you will see as we move forward, is a little bit of history. Not, I think, history in the way that you might think, but a lot of the places we go to are historic. I mean, like in Greece, as he mentioned, he's got a 3,000-year history. And so a lot of the places we go to have some kind of historic value. One of the places we were at on our way there was very famous because of World War II. And here's just a quick little highlight about that. Today we're in Cherbourg, France. As you leave the port and cross the bridge, you will notice the beautiful waterfront with its street-lined cafes. Moving just one block in from the waterfront, You will notice the tight streets and alleys in beautiful architecture. There are tiny little alleyways that lead from one street to the next. But this is where you will find all the locals do their shopping. From fruits and vegetables, to seafood, to clothing. There's even a carousel. But what I find amazing is if you take a minute to look just past some of these buildings, you will find remnants of buildings that have been in Cherbourg for hundreds of years. As you meander your way through the streets and looking at the architecture, you might just find yourself upon some graceful Gothic architecture, as you see in this church. This church is called the Holy Trinity Basilica of Cherbourg. It was built around 841. That is correct, 841. But through the years, it has been destroyed and rebuilt because of many different invasions. After the basilica had been destroyed in the 100 Years' War, another rebuild began in 1428. This rebuild took until 1466 to complete, and the basilica was consecrated on May 24th of that year. During the hundreds of years that followed, the church had been ransacked and partially destroyed many times. A 26-meter high square tower was added to the church in 1828. Cherbourg is protected by Cherbourg Harbor. The city has been a strategic position over the centuries, disputed between the English and the French. Heavily contested for centuries, Cherbourg has been considered the key to the kingdom. The reason being is it's the only deep water port in the north of France. If you wanted to hold France, you gotta take Cherbourg. Known as one of the keys of the kingdom, it's become a colossal maritime development work. It's also been a stopping point for the prestigious transatlantic liners in the first half of the 20th century. Cherbourg was the very first stop the Titanic made. When the Titanic was here, the passengers would board ferries from the terminal right over here, but then they would be transferred to the Titanic, which was anchored out here. The Titanic itself never came to the dock. As you walk around Cherbourg, you will also notice military structures that have been left from World War II from the German buildup. When the Germans took control of Cherbourg, they built fortifications all along the port, knowing that at some point the Allies would need to land there. Cherbourg was also the primary goal of U.S. troops during the Normandy invasion in 1944. During the Second World War, the German army occupied the north of France and fortified the coastline against invasion. As a deepwater port, Cherbourg was of strategic importance, very heavily protected against seaborne assault. German troops arrived in the outskirts of Cherbourg on June 17, 1940. Towards the end of the Battle of France, 2 days later, the city council declared the city open. 4 years later, Cherbourg, the only deepwater port in the region, was the primary objective of the American troops who landed at Utah Beach during the Battle of Normandy. The Battle of Cherbourg was required to give the Allies a point of logistic support for human resupply and materiel for the troops. American troops encircled the city on June 21st, 1944. At the end of furious street fighting, on June 26th, 37,000 German soldiers surrendered. Limited by its geographical isolation from being a great commercial port, it is nonetheless an important shipbuilding center and a working-class city. We hope you've enjoyed this tour of Cherbourg. If you're here on a cruise ship like we are, or just come here on your own, we hope that you will enjoy it as much as we have. All right, so yeah, if you enjoy little nuggets of history in historic places like that, this is going to be a channel for you. So you know what to do, right? Hit that subscribe button, become part of the Travel Addicts family, and we will continually bring you great locations and things like that. To include, I mentioned we were there on a cruise ship. Cruising is one of our most favorite things to do, and so if you love cruising as much as we do, we will most certainly be covering some cruising on here as well. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add about your time in Cherbourg?
Oh, I just, loved walking around. I love seeing all the history. Yeah.
Yeah. It was hard to tell from the video, but the port is very close to downtown, or the waterfront, I should at least say. You walk off the ship, you got to go across the bridge, and you're right there. There are lots of cafes to eat at if you want to take in some of the local flavor.
Yes.
We had a limited time, and so we did not sit down and eat. We are so sorry, Julie, for not eating. You know who I mean. And but that whole waterfront was nothing but cafes.
Yes, and the food looked amazing. It smelled wonderful, but like you said, limited time. We were speed walking.
So only so much time when you're trying to do the video and stuff. So and we wanted to
Yes.
capture that for you guys there.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
And we covered other things. We went to some of the DJ beaches and filmed that. We're not bringing that to you here. We went to the American Cemetery when they were getting ready for the memorial. And there was a flyby that happened when they were practicing, and we got that on video. Again, we're not going to show that here, but we have lots of footage that we will bring to you here on this channel. So that is a little bit about Athens, a little bit about Cherbourg, and talked about cruise and stuff. But at the beginning of the video, if you are still with us right now and you made it all the way through, God bless you guys, we talked about our 2 favorite places to visit. So without further ado, here is the last one. Well, I'm sure you figured out where that was.
Rome!
Rome, Florence, and Pisa.
Yes.
Obviously, we're talking about Italy, and there's way more locations in Italy. We just couldn't get to it all.
Yeah.
And so we will talk just briefly about those 3. Obviously, there's Venice and there's Sicily. I mean, there's so much to see there.
Yeah.
But even within the 3 places we went, we couldn't possibly see it all. So we'll start with Florence. One of the big features in Florence, outside of David, the statue of David, is the Duomo, which is the church right in the center of town. You can get up to the top. Isn't it it's like 900 and something steps.
It was a long walk.
It was a long walk up there.
A climb. And it gets really skinny.
It does get skinny. It really does.
Yeah.
And so that was really neat to take that tour and go through the church and learn about its history. Of course, we also mentioned David, the museum there. There's so much history in Florence. If you go back, Florence was more of a cultural center way back when. And so art, whether it's sculptures and painting, Florence was the center of that. And so if you are into any of that sort of vacationing, right, to see art and sculptures and these kind of things, Florence is definitely a city that you have to put on your list if it already isn't on your list. Yeah. We were there for an event that was happening on a villa, like up on the mountainside that overlooked, which is where some of that video came from. And it was built in like 1311. It was before, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, right? It just, history. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. So then we stopped off at Pisa. Pisa was a one-day trip for us. From Florence, we took the train. And that is one thing about Italy. The transportation is great. And so fly in one city. Just take the transportation system public everywhere else. Buy a ticket. It's wonderful. Yeah. But be wary. They do tend to strike every once in a while. It is very well documented. It's not going to happen without notice, but it did actually cut our time short in Rome because they were going to go on strike, so we had to leave and get on the trains before that all happened. So, but use the public transportation system. Anyway,
yeah, without a doubt.
Pisa was amazing. We got to climb up to the top, and it's kind of interesting because you're going up, and then you're walking down, and you're going up, and you're walking down. And so it was real neat to do that.
I love how the marble footprints from all the people that have been climbing over the years, the footprints have worn into the marble.
Yeah, the steps are all grooved out from
Yes.
everybody walking on them for
Yes.
centuries. So I just found it interesting, with Pisa that, the tower started leaning when they were building it.
Yeah.
It wasn't when they finished. It was literally when they were building it. And so they try to compensate. So there's some layers of the rocks where one side gets bigger and the other side gets smaller. They try to compensate, which didn't help, obviously. But it started leaning immediately. Yeah. So ultimately we ended in Rome, which, what can you say? To me, it's almost like Greece, other than it's more condensed.
Yeah.
Right? Everywhere you turn, there was historic structure, from the Colosseum to the Pantheon to the Vatican to Trevi Fountain. I mean, just it's everywhere.
Yeah.
That in itself, I could probably stay there months and not see it all.
Easily.
We spent just, I think, an entire day just at the Vatican. There are tours that you can go through, and just Sistine Chapel, and just, I mean, it was an absolute dream time there. And so we're sorry we don't have more footage to show you of that. We will do specific videos just about that, but we just wanted to give you a little taste of what this channel is going to be about and what it's going to be like, and hope that you join us on our adventures, if you will. There's one thing that Lisa wanted me to remind you of, is when we were talking about cruising. We decided to do a transatlantic cruise to go over to Europe. Now, if you've got plenty of time, if you're retired, if you're not, punching a clock somewhere and you've got all kinds of time, it cost us half the amount that it would have to fly to take the ship over.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't the Cunard ship. The Cunard ships don't do it regularly anymore anyway. So I think the ship that we were on, it was like 13 days transatlantic, but we did it for literally half of what the plane cost, and we had the time. So we're like, let's save the money and we'll give it to FOTIS.
Yeah.
So, and oddly enough, time being what it was, we took a ship back as well. That just was a timing. We didn't plan it that way. It just happened as we were skipping. Oh, what, this could work. And so ultimately we took a ship there. We were over there for about, about a month altogether, 3 weeks, and then took a ship back. And so we had an amazing time.
Yeah, it was definitely amazing.
So we're going to go all kinds of places, Asia and Australia. It just stick with us. If you're into traveling, if you're travel addicts like we are, you have obviously found the right channel here at Travel Addicts. So we appreciate you being with us. And until we see you all again on the road, be safe.